Okay, arguably there are 5 major pillars on which a quality education system is based. And what I'd like to do is make just 1 or 2 comments about each of those pillars in the context of Queensland education. In the interest of time, I'll be focusing on school system, but I'm very happy to take questions on the training system or the higher education system later if you wish. The first pillar is the quality of the educational strategy and the policy framework that is derived from it. For at least the last quarter of a century, educational strategy and educational policy development in Queensland has emanated from the philosophical position of educational theorists and bureaucrats about what education should be and what it should do. Ideologically driven theoretical models have been the basis for curriculum development, teaching and learning approaches, and assessment and reporting processes and practices. Instead of being the product of idiosyncratic theoretical perspectives, educational strategy, policies and processes should, in my view, grow out of the real-world needs of students, parents, the community, the business community and the nation, both now and in the future. Government education policies and practices should be based on an objective understanding of the real world and on a clear understanding of the outcomes that are needed from education, both individually and collectively. Theory and ideology have a place in education and an important place, but they must be grounded in and derived from an objective analysis and understanding of the nature and the needs of those for whom education is being provided. Certainly education theory that is essentially philosophically based and is untested in the real world and is based on the personal beliefs of academics about what this world should be like should no longer be the basis for educational policy and practice in this state. The second pillar is the quality of the curriculum and the teaching and learning processes that are used to deliver it. A key focus of the school curriculum in Queensland over the last quarter of a century has been discovery learning. In simple terms, this is an approach in which students learn through the process of exploration of various real-world and hypothetical scenarios, accumulating knowledge as they go, rather than through the more traditional method of learning key facts and concepts that are subsequently applied. The strength of the discovery learning approach is that it allows for the development of creative and innovative ways of thinking and doing, the underpinning of any leading-edge society. It is, however, based on 2 key assumptions, neither of which I believe are currently sustainable in Queensland education. First, that the students all have the basic knowledge and understanding of concepts to engage in genuinely creative and innovative exploration. And second, that teachers have the high-level skills necessary to facilitate effective exploratory learning. Einstein once commented, "Even the most innovative of buildings is built in the most basic of foundations." The curriculum in Queensland needs to balance the need for basic knowledge and skills, most of which need to be learned rather than somehow discovered, with opportunities to develop creative and innovative skills and aptitudes. The problem is that current Queensland curriculum can reasonably be accused of significantly devaluing, ignoring, and even abusing basic knowledge and skills derived through rote learning, particularly in the areas of literacy, numeracy, and general knowledge. In simple terms, we need a curriculum in Queensland in which philosophical debates and theoretical models are calibrated with the needs of the real world. The third pillar is the quality of the teachers and the quality of classroom teaching. The majority of teachers in our schools undoubtedly are of a high standard. The problem is that the number of less than satisfactory teachers in our schools has now reached a critical mass. Their numbers are now more than sufficient to undermine both the quality and the public perception of our schools. There are at least 2 major reasons for the problem. First, the entry standards for teachers are unacceptably low and perhaps not sufficiently rigorous in their application. We are, for example, allowing students into primary teaching who themselves have demonstrated very poor literacy and numeracy skills during their own schooling, but we then give them the frontline responsibility for lifting what we generally agree are unacceptable standards of school literacy and numeracy. The second reason relates to significant questions regarding the quality and relevance of teacher training. Again, we have many very fine teacher training departments at universities and many superb teacher trainers. There is very strong evidence to suggest, however, that the quality of many of our teacher trainers and teaching training departments is less than what is needed to promote high teacher quality, and that much of the teacher training curriculum is theoretical and ideologically based, rather than providing the toolbox of knowledge, skills and understanding necessary to facilitate effective learning in the day-to-day realities of school classrooms. Excellent educational researchers and excellent educational theorists do not necessarily have the practical skills and understanding required to be excellent trainers of classroom teachers. There is an urgent need for government to address the requirements for entry to teacher training courses and the quality of teacher training in our universities. The fourth pillar is the quality of assessment. Assessment has two purposes. First, to confirm the outcomes of learning, what we call summative assessment, and second, to enhance the quality of learning while it is occurring, what we call formative assessment. All the evidence suggests that formative assessment is being undertaken pretty well in Queensland, but there are significant problems and concerns about summative assessment, particularly at the end of Year 12. Queensland has had 100% school-based assessment in Years 11 and 12 for over 40 years, the only state in Australia to do so. Our students, however, are not outperforming the other states. Indeed, in several areas, they are not even matching them. The theoretical model underpinning school-based assessment is deceptively compelling, promoting as it does the strengths of direct teacher knowledge about individual student performance. I use the words deceptively compelling because school-based assessment is based on at least 4 key assumptions that have proven to be unsustainable in practice. First, that all teachers have the professional skills and assessment to make rigorous and consistent judgments about students' performances. Second, that all teachers are well qualified in the discipline area. Third, that all teachers will act with the highest levels of integrity and ethical standards. And fourth, that students, parents and the community will see the system as fair. There is a major priority issue for government to sort out an appropriate assessment model for Years 11 and 12, one that combines the internal perspective of school-based assessment with the external confirmation of quality outcomes that a genuinely independent external examination provides. This model has been used for a long time in all other Australian states and according to them works extremely well. There's one other assessment issue I want to raise. Those of you who are parents of school-age students will know just how much time and effort goes into so-called continuous assessment, inevitably at the expense of precious time needed for genuine teaching and learning. As a farmer uncle of mine used to say, you don't fatten the pig by weighing it more often. Government needs to lower the assessment burden in schools so that we can actually ramp up the time needed for effective teaching and learning. The fifth pillar is the quality of educational research on which decisions are made and policy is developed. Effective educational decision-making requires conceptually sound and methodologically rigorous research by researchers who are independent of the systems and programs being reviewed or analysed, and who are able to divorce their analyses and recommendations from their own philosophical perspectives. Unfortunately, a great deal of the educational research commissioned over the last 20 to 30 years in Queensland simply has not met the criteria for quality independent research. There are, for example, far too many instances of Caesar judging Caesar, researchers being asked to review and evaluate programs or initiatives or structural arrangements that they themselves were directly involved in putting in place. There are also far too many initiatives developed and implemented by the Department of Education that are internally evaluated by departmental employees. And surprise to surprise, to my knowledge, always, I believe, with glowing results. Let me be absolutely clear about this point. It simply is not acceptable for governments to continue to commission so-called independent research based on recommendations from the Department of Education about who they would like to review their programs. The government must have strong and defensible research to drive policy development and to judge the success of its educational initiatives. But it must have high quality and genuinely independent professionals conducting and reporting that research. Okay, I've had to rush through that, but what do I say in summary? What I believe we need is for the new Queensland Government to develop and implement educational policy and curriculum based on the real needs of students, the real needs of business, and the real needs of the community. We need a government that actively seeks objective and methodologically rigorous research on which to base its decisions. We need a government prepared to unpack the educational assessment empire in Queensland and to place student learning back as the hub of the education wheel. And we need a government prepared to seriously address the legitimate and pervasive community concerns about the quality of many of our teachers and many of our teacher trainers. None of this will be easy because the problems and dysfunctions have been festering for more than a quarter of a century, often becoming cemented into standard practice and the human infrastructure of our education systems. Nevertheless, the recent Merkins report, which took thousands of community submissions, suggests that there is very, very strong community demand to address these issues and concerns as a matter of the highest priority. You didn't have to ding.